for these 2 hours. Really appreciate you for being part of these sessions. Would like to welcome you once again. For those that are coming in, you just came at the right time. And please note that all recordings will be recorded. And for those who are registered on the MOOC portal, that's where you get all the recordings. And for those of you who have not been registered on the MOOC portal, please let us know. On the chat box, you will see our indicated email for any queries. It's much easier for you to also indicate on the subject line what is it that you'd like us to focus on, so that it's much easier on that. By the way, without wasting any time, I'll hand over to Meneer Johannes, whereby he will just give you simple house rules that you are very good at. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Tamela. Welcome everybody to today's session. We only have a few small house rules for today's session. We only want to ask everybody to please mute your camera to save data and bandwidth. Also to mute your microphones, keep all the background noise to a minimum. If anybody has a question at any point in time, please feel free to raise your hand. And then I think that's all from my side of the host. Over to you.
You're getting good at this, Casper. You're getting very good at the house rules. Awesome. Thank you very much. And the recording has started. So here we are. Yes, so it's Wednesday already. And now we are going to, so up until yesterday, we were doing how to improve your programming. And there were two structures we introduced. The one was the looping and the other one was the decision making. And noting then that your programming for a robot then increases in efficiency if you get measurements from the environment where your robot is moving, and then, well, sensors are the kind of the mechanisms or the devices that then do the readings for you and take note of the environment. And obviously, the more sensors you have, the more data you can have. But if the data is not read correctly, then you're actually at a loss for that. And you just need to remind me maybe towards the end. I would like to let you know of another session that's happening on Saturday afternoon for bigger robots, but I'll get back to that. I don't want to distract now. So what I said just now is it would be really good to have an in-person event, because normally when we do gearing, I have a little box here. And so my story I tell is that I drink coffee in the morning, but I don't have much energy. So if I turn slowly on this side here on this lever, all right, then I've got 1, 2, 3 axles, and each one has got gearing mechanisms on it. I don't know whether you can see it there, kind of. So there's a gearing mechanism, and then there's a driver and a driven gear, and then a little idle gear inside. And so what happens is that even if you turn this very slowly, the bottom one goes very fast. So I have to have least energy for the quickest frothier of my coffee. Yes, and so what we do in a normal workshop on gearing, I've got a box here. It's been counted. I know how many pieces are in here, but I give each team a handful of components, and then they have to borrow pieces from other teams. And they're not allowed to say thingy and other thingy. So they need to go to another team and say, we need a longer axle, or we need a small drive in the middle. There's that idle gear, or we need these mechanisms, but you're not allowed to say thingy and other thingy. So a lot of fun to make it work, because it's one of those little contraptions, and it's really fun to make. And this is the kind of things that you use to start your learners thinking about gears and gear structures. And I'll show you some designs now as well. There's a lot of contraptions. There's a lot of ideas to make little contraptions with gearing, because gearing, if you've got it and if your robot can use it, then it makes it more efficient, much more efficient. So I've got some examples here. So this is Mozart, and Mozart has, here is the motor, all right, and here's the gearing, and you see that the gearing is then used in connection with a powered attachment. So this motor turns it up and down like this. So there's an arm to your robot. So that makes a powered attachment. So if you've got the gearing, if you know how to do gearing, you will then know how to do powered attachments. it's kind of linked together, and it is it's kind of a next level thinking. You want the learners to build robots that are reliable, efficient, and effective. Okay, so so just kind of on that note, so powered attachments, which we're going to get to today. Powered attachments are the attachments that are all they must be connected to a motor. All right, so all powered attachments are connected to a motor, but all powered attachments do not necessarily have gears. If you include gears in your powered attachment, you have a little bit more control. So for example, this powered attachment going up and down, if it didn't have gears to kind of hold it going down, it would just flop down. And that is, again, you've got two options, one that just flops down, the other one that is very controlled. So you have a more efficient and effective robot. Okay. What I will get to as well is what these learners have done is they've embedded gears inside. So they've got gears attached to motors on axles. I'll unpack this now. And so that allows for attaching and detaching powered attachments, okay, because the power is already on the motors which are embedded in the robot. Okay, all right, so let's just get started with gearing. I'll unpack a little bit of a couple of gears, and I'm really asking you to, if you go onto the MOOC portal, and Tumelo will give you some advice there if you're stuck, build every single gearing model. All right, find a model to have that gearing structure. And then you just need to attach it to a motor and you make that mechanism work. But it is important to have the basic mechanism. The rack and pinion is the longitudinal one. The bevel one is where you have it at 90 degrees. You get motion into 90 degrees. But important, gearing is important, as is powered attachments. And the one kind of complements the other one. All right, so let's quickly go to the... What I was going to say? Sharing. That's what I'm going to do. All right. So I'm just making sure everybody can see my screen.
It's going for now, Dr. Host.
Yes, from now I'm going, gone. Yes.
Yes, there you go.
Okay, awesome. All right. So we've got the gears and powered attachments. So I would really encourage you to focus some time, spend some time on gears, and I will show you some really cool resources that I have for different gearing mechanisms. All right, and then how to apply that then to powered attachments. And again, I'm coming back to the thing that if you have building instructions, you build a frame of reference. All right, once you've built an arm, the learners will know how to build an arm, and then they modify it, and so we go to another level. Okay, so just some navigation. This the content, the overview document is in the MOOC2 site. Tumelo and Nadine are more than happy to give you some guidance on any MOOC queries you have, and Anzani, they use the same email, but Anzani does know who's who there. And then the content, and there will be a recording that we'll have available for you. So again, just class rules. We are kind of assuming you've completed M1, but if you're still in the process, that's just fine. All right. Okay, so we are past halfway, so well done. And we're assuming that you've got some software installed, and we're assuming you've got some robots, and we're kind of making several assumptions, but if not, it's not that serious. All right, so if we go back now, it's about, we are going to actually look at powered attachments to the building and programming of powered attachments, but we can't consider powered attachments unless we've considered gearing. All right, and gearing, it's kind of, you can easily wash over it, or you can make it a really great part of your robotics training. There is lots to learn in gearing. Not only the mathematics of it, the gearing up, the gearing down, but you know, it's about mechanisms and kind of trying to figure it out and making it modified, and why we use gearing. So there's a whole lot of questions really about gearing. Okay, so for each of the units have got, this unit 3 has got two parts. The one is about the gearing and the gear models. So we have to build the gear models, and it's a good idea to take your model, just connect it to a motor, and then program it just to see what programming is required to control the gear. Okay, that is in and of itself lots of teaching and learning. All right, and then in the second part of this unit, we start building powered attachments, and in brackets using gears. And so then the programming required to control powered attachments, just that comes that much easier. And now before I even continue, please say the controlling of powered attachments must be in seconds. The programming to control powered attachments must be in seconds, otherwise your robot might just get stuck. Okay, if it cannot complete the rotations, your robot will just freeze. I repeat, programming of powered attachments must be in seconds. Okay, all right. So if you've built the model, it's no use just building the model and saying, yeah, I know how it works. Okay, write the code for it. Okay, and it's most important to test each combination, because then you kind of know that it fits together. All right, so if a gear, and you need a robotics kit, there's a whole lot of little gears and big gears and little gears, and okay, and usually it rotates. Okay, but it only rotates if it has a power source, and normally the power source comes via the motor, so the motor rotates the gear, and the motor is then connected to the power source. Okay, the teeth have to mesh, not mesh, not mesh, not mosh, mesh. The teeth have to mesh. And I know it's kind of, if you really want great meshing, you'll have to make sure that it meshes well. And so there are some powered attachments. They work for most of the time, and then when you put a little bit of strain on it, it unmeshes. So that whole structure of using gears is also really, really important. All right, I'll show you some examples now. Okay, so the cool thing about a gear, it can change speed, it can change torque, which is sometimes and you know, if you have a driver's license or you drive a car, you drive a stick car, not an automatic car, you'll know that in first gear you have lots of power, but you don't have any, well, you have limited speed. And then as you go down to fifth gear, you have actually little power, but you have lots of speed. Okay, and so there's always this play on speed and power, and so yeah, and that's how we use gears. All right, so I've got a whole lot of pictures here. In your robotics kit, you'll find a whole lot of little gears, and it's actually important that you make things with it so that the learners can understand what it is used for. Okay, so normally with a spur gear, like what we've got here, you usually put it in a linear. So it's the power is, so if the little gray gear on the left hand side starts turning, it'll turn the red gear, which is your idle, which will turn the driven gear, which is the big gray one. All right, if however you put the power source on the big gray one, then the red one is still your idle, and the smallest one on the left hand side is then your driven gear. Okay, and then obviously if the big one if it's got power source and it only rotates once, that little gear on the side has kind of turned about eight or nine times already. Okay, and so the direction of movement, so if the two gray gears will always go, this one and this one will always go in the same direction, this one will always be opposite. And don't just, I don't know, I feel, don't just tell your learners, give them the gears and tell them to figure it out, and then they need to tell you what they've discovered. Okay, so gears is always used to transfer motion. Okay, so that's the linear transfer, but you also get where you have rotation and then you go to linear. I see there's an A missing there, like the rack and pinion. All right, so if you turn the pinion, the rack will move up and down. Okay, so there we've got rotational movement, and it's transferred then into linear movement. It's quite good for making arms that move left and right. Okay, again, if you don't build the model, if your learners don't understand the concepts, I don't know where the learning is going to happen. It's going to be a little okay. And then obviously the 90-degree that 90 degrees, the bevel gear. And so the bevel gear is really where you want to transfer rotation from in one direction to another. And yeah, the more start small. Start with 2 bevel gears. Find an angle, 90-degree angle, and tell us what happens. And then you add, and then you add, and you add. All right. The whole thing is to discover. Okay, so there's a whole lot of the spur gear is the kind of normal gear that we have. The crown gear has got the pieces going up, and the bevel gears kind of fits into each other. You can see that the teeth are kind of shaped so they can then actually fit into each other. The worm gear is great for rotation, but just be careful with it, because if your spur gears are not meshing well with your worm gear, it kind of gets to chaos. Yeah. Okay, and then the clutch. The clutch we don't often use currently in the smaller robots, but in the larger robots we might use the clutch gear. And then the knob gear. The knob gear is one of my favorites because it teaches gearing quickly. It also always looks like a tap, tap gear. So sometimes my learners used to refer to it as the tap gear, but it's actually a knob gear. It gives them quick and easy access to gearing and understanding what it is. And then when they refine it, then they will go on to spur gears. All right. And there's just some interesting information about gears. All right. So when you build a gear train, they obviously must be adjacent and they must move. So this one if this one moves, then that one moves, and this one moves. So the 2 ends gears will then move in the same direction, and adjacents always move in opposite direction. But it's no use just telling them, let them figure it out. Okay, so what's going to happen here if you were to draw a picture? Well, there's the axle. That's the axle that's linked or connected to a motor. So what's going to happen? So if this turns this way, then this is going to move out towards the left. If this turns the other way, then it's going to move this thing to the right. Okay. So yeah. So whatever you depends on how you turn it. All right. There has been a couple of uses of spur gear. So this is just an example of moving an arm with a spur gear, and it's with an arm with a motor, and it's on seconds. All right, so it's just kind of to lower an arm, but the arm is better controlled by a spur gear. All right, and interesting, if your learners have got it, say for 20% power, nice and slowly, let them change it. Let them change the power settings, and let them tell you what's going to happen. Gears and speed don't work very well. I'm just FYI. Okay. But you can change it. Okay, and then your learners must say, okay, that would work, or it didn't work, or it's not great, or it isn't great. Okay. Again, for bevel gears, you can see nice and slowly, turn it nice and slowly. If you turn the one, it'll turn the other. So if you turn the one, you can also turn the others. Just be also that it's meshed well. Yeah. And then also connect it to a motor, and then you change the power settings. And you say, okay, so what is the impact of that? And it's got to mesh well, otherwise you're going to damage the gears. All right. So that is the whole gearing, and there's lots of examples to build. In your building objectives, there are 7 different gearings that you can build, and you'll find a good number of resources as well. All right. But now the point comes where you need to add the gears to our powered attachments. All right. And sometimes you leave the gears out and you say, oh no, this can only be improved, and then you add the gears. All right. Your powered attachments on a robot are always programmed. Okay. So you have to program the arm to go down. You have to program the arm to come up. You have to program the arm to flick left or flick right or collect something. For most of the time, the powered attachments are in the front, but they have been on the center and they have been at the back. It depends where you need the sensor. Okay. Just keep in mind also about the center of gravity. So if you have, if you attach it too far to the front, it might topple the robot, especially if you're trying to pick something up that's really heavy. Yeah, but that's part of experimenting, I guess. Hey? Okay. Now your powered attachment must be connected not only with connectors as a structure, but also a wire. Okay, so this is kind of where it's different from passive attachments. So the passive attachments just had the little connector pins. If you've got a powered attachment, you have to have a wire, and I'm pleading with you to make sure that your wire is in the correct hole. Otherwise, it's going to be disaster. Okay, so by way of example, this is on the Riley Rover building instructions. Okay, so in the building instructions for just a Riley Rover, there are two powered attachments. Okay, and this one is called a cargo loader, and this one is called a grabber. Okay, so in this case, you've got that gear is connected to the motor, and it bevels with another knob gear at 90 degrees, okay, which then in turn pulls this thing up. So the arm goes up and goes down. All right. I'll give you a link just now. There was, I think it was for the Into Orbit Challenge. And I think Dr. Hino, it's a guy called Dr. Hino on the YouTube. And he basically shows you how just with these structures, you can actually do all the missions on the First Lego League Challenge. Okay. And this is where it comes in. So if your learners have built this structure, okay, and you go up and you can, this arm can lift up and go down. Very similarly, if you disconnect it on the sides here and turn the whole structure 180 degrees, then you will be able to go down and pull. All right, I'm using my hands here. I'm not sure whether you can see me. Okay, so that if the learners get that mechanism, what this looks like can be modified. Okay, a good example here over here. Where's my key? There we go. So there we've got the worm gear that's attached to the motor, and there's the two spur gears. Okay, and it's just an arm with just a single beam. Very not so rigid, but it can grab something. Okay, I need to also emphasize, if you grab something, you've got to release it. If you pick something up, you've got to put it down. If you put it down, you've got to bring it up. So there has to be an equal and opposite motion to every motion. All right, so you've got attachments that can grab, so you can grab to collect, or you can grab to hold, and then you move forward and then you release it. Similarly, if you lift something, you can either lift it, carry it, drop it, or you can move forward, collect, and then return. All right. Whatever you do, you can modify the attachment, I promise. All right. So I told you. Okay. So the gear, the gearing is part of your structure. Okay. It's the motor that is attached to your powered attachment that must be attached to your brain. Okay, and it's usually in port A. B and C are usually for wheels. A is for arms. It's just a convention, and I'll say it again. I said it yesterday. When you're teaching and you've got a class and you've got 30 learners in your class, you cannot have every learner having their own learning convention. So I'm appealing to you. Say it's class convention. Motor B is your left wheel, motor right is your C wheel, and port A is in the arm. And if you get an extra attachment, you can put it into D, port D, but your first arm will put in port A. It's just a convention. It allows you to very quickly debug. All right, so the gripper's got the spur gears, which are meshed, and then it's got the two arms which hold it. All right. That is a problem if the thing that you're moving is too big or too heavy for those two little grippy arms. Okay. The knob gear is a little bit more sturdy. It's going to lift up and lift down. I don't think it's going to lift much, but it can also be turned the other way, right? And then it can do exactly this or a similar thing. All right. So if you want the arm to go up and down, so this is kind of a close-up. There it's linked. This part is the motor. There's your gear, and it's got a little red axle in it, and there's another axle with this knob gear. Okay, so when the knob gear turns, the axle turns, and if the axle turns, it lifts the whole arm. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so those are the ones that it can move up and it can move down. There we go, and pick up something and drop something. Okay, right, but the gripper gear has got a worm gear. So here I just go up close and personal. There's your worm gear. There's the 2 spur gears, and you see they are well meshed with your spur gear, which seems enough until the weight is too much. Okay, and then you need to find another one. There we go. See, it's linked in there onto the worm gear, and there the teeth are meshed onto the spur gear. Okay. You might also need to increase the size of your 2 arms. So if your arms are not strong enough or too wide or too narrow, that is also a design that you can consider. Okay, so those 2 will then turn and you've got the arms. Okay. Powder attachment, you've built it, and then you need to attach it to the robot, and then you've got the programming. Okay, but please have rotations for powder attachment controlled by time so that time can pass. Okay. I always say when we are doing programming for your powder attachments, write a little program and just test. Okay, I know positive is not, oh, and there's a spelling error there too. So positive is not a good word at the moment. But you need to, the learners need to have it in their heads. All right. If you go positive for 1 second, which means it's up for 1 second, or positive power for 1 second, then the arm will go up. If you have negative, the arm is going to go down, eh? Yeah. All right. And test and write it in so that you don't forget. So positive arm power is up. Okay. Yeah, it's just being a little bit more organized. And then, of course, if you have an arm moving up and down, you've got to have a weight, because we do have that momentum thing that we have in physics. And this is another good programming habit to have. All right. So when you change directions, when you stop your robot to turn, there must be a weight. When you stop your robot to move your arm down, you should actually first have a weight. Then you take your arm down, then you wait, then you bring the arm up again. Okay, so in between motions, even if it's 0.5 of a second, it's just good programming practice. Okay. So if up is positive, then down is negative. And so I've kind of added here. So here we have got for 1 second the arm up. It's positive. The arm goes up. Then you kind of wait for it to load. Then we're going to go forward. Then we're going to wait. And then there's negative power, so the arm comes down. Oh my word, I see spelling errors all over the place here. Okay, and then you come down. All right, so it's a slow and steady movement. If you take the weights out and you make the robot move at 100% power, it's going to be disastrous. Remember, we want accurate, efficient, and effective robots. All right. The gripper is one of those things you need to test it for a specific, very specific thing. So if you have just the gripper as it is there, yeah, learning to apply for a specific situation. If you've got, say, your gripper and you've got, say, a empty water bottle, it could grip that, all right? But it will not be strong enough to grip a full tin of condensed milk. It will also be not strong enough to grip a full tin of Coke. And so you have to give them a scenario, and that's what the activities are in the overview document for N2 as well. There's a whole range of items, and let's see what that can add, whether it can actually, get it or not get it. Okay, so I've added here a gazillion. It feels like a gazillion video resources. But dog ears are really important, and I think you need to know about it and kind of work towards dog ears. Spur gears, bevel gears, it's good to know, but those are the basic ones, right? Dog ear is your next level. Okay, claws, yeah, watch it if you want to. All right. There is a recommended, oh, what happened there? So my recommended reference is the winning design. He had a book out for NXT and then EV3, and the one for Spike Prime hasn't come out yet. But if you can find it, I usually buy all my stuff from No Starch Press. Really great robotics books. But he gives you a very broad perspective on building and attaching attachments. All right. So we have an assignment. So you've got 2 quizzes that you can do, but you have lots of building and programming activities. And I really, really, really encourage you to build different parts. I'm going to show you some more examples. And now I'm going to stop sharing. And yeah, there we go. All right. So I'm just going to pause for 1 minute. Are there any questions? I don't know. Is Tumelo, are you busy monitoring the situation?
Yes.
I just want to go and fetch something whilst you're talking. I'm listening. I'm right here.
So far, there are no questions. Oh, I see Eric has their hand up. Yes, go for it, Eric. Casper,
actually,
question.
I wanted to ask Dr. Gous about the specifics for timing for seconds. So she might have to answer that for me. So I'll wait till two. Yeah, for time.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'll give you a demonstration. Wait, I've got a cat here who also wants to be part of the action. All right. So here's your robot, all right? And you've programmed this arm to go down for 2 rotations. All right. So it's going down. Okay, that's half. And now it cannot go any further because of the structure. Okay. But your robot is very obedient. It's got to do 2 rotations, and it's not going to be able to do that. Okay. So it's going to wait like that, and your robot's actually going to get stuck. Okay. If I have my arm up here and I say go down for 1 second, it goes down until it cannot anymore, and now structurally it's stuck. Okay. The 2 seconds pass, and then it continues. Time passes.
Okay.
Right.
Now I understand that. I've had similar things where the gear moves too fast and it gets stuck. But if I want to move an arm, just say 45 degrees, and I'm using Spike Prime, I can set it to 45 degrees. So I want to know, is that wrong?
No, it's not wrong, but you are doing it. All right.
Okay, so time just helps you with it getting stuck.
Yeah. So what some learners, what I've done in the meantime as part of my lessons is I always get the learners, if they're going to work with geared motors, they have to, before they start moving, they've got to bring the arm down or up to a 0 place where it can't go any further, so that I know that the arm is starting in a given place. Because what the learners do is when they start like this, and the next time they program it, they start it like this, and the next time they program it, it starts like this. So the starting position is not accurate. The important thing is you must have an absolute starting position. And then you can say from here, 45 degrees.
Okay.
Okay. But then you have to know that your robot is starting exactly like that. Okay?
Yeah.
If you're using degrees or rotations, you need to have zeroed it and reset the motors, and then you can do 45 degrees from them. That you can do. All right.
Okay.
But in the non-ideal world that we live in, I get my learners or my teams, if we're going to do arms and gears, you have to have a 0 place, and then you say you move it for so many seconds.
Okay, I understand it.
Yeah.
Just a quick comment. In Spike Prime, there's no worm gear. So
there's not?
No. So I don't think there's dog gears either. So
no, the dog gears there are. No. You build dog gears. You build.
Oh yeah, with the.
No, okay. You build.
Yeah.
So the dog gears are like this here. Okay,
yeah, with the little round things. Okay. So
okay. Well, you can use any, but Builder Dude 35 has got dog gears. Okay, yeah. And these 2 are connected to the 2 motors inside here. All right, which allows you then to put powered attachments onto your chassis without having to fiddle with the power source. So you're gearing the attachment to transfer power. Yeah.
Okay.
And it has kind of a, I'll get some powered attachments. I'll attach them for you. I'll show you how it works. Yeah.
In this unit 3, where you say to move with, say, an idler, are you just wanting us to just move a gear? I was looking for robot designs that have an idler, because to me, I interpreted to move a robot with an idler. And I've been looking for examples to find and follow, but some of them are a little complicated. But I've made some of those gear trains like you were showing me those examples.
Awesome.
So then you are technically moving
Yes.
the gear. So,
There you go. Yes,
so
you are.
it doesn't necessarily have to be in a robot.
No, just in the models. And I will come back to one of the very first times my daughter came home. I don't know what grade she was in, and she showed me a piece of paper, and it's had 2 gears on it with little arrows. And she says, if this goes this way, that goes that way. And I said to her, well, what if we change? No, you can't change the arrows. That's how it is. And I fret that learners learn that that's all that is involved in gears. But give them a whole lot of gears. I mean, give them like a box of these gears and tell them to put it in and make it work.
See it happen, yeah.
There's something really cool where you can build a whole lot of really cool things with gears. Maybe I must have that as a project as well. I'll show you. And what you're trying to do is to get the learners to kind of think, oh my word, that's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so on that note, and it's about building a frame of reference or a bank. And so you do need time to build structures, because if you give learners a kit and say, build a robot, they cannot, because they have got no frame of reference.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here I know it's powered. Here we go. This one here. Okay, so this is the EV3 Minds ideas book, and it's got no words in it. So for me, it's I just don't know why this cover gets dirty very quickly. All right.
There's 4 flats, so they're going to now sell their house.
Sorry, somebody's. Okay, there we go. All right. So so if you look in these books, I'm just going to go. So it's really it gives you all the parts you'll need, and then to build a gearing mechanism.
Okay.
Okay. So these are. This one is just for examples. Then you've got time before your class just to get all those pieces together, and you explain to the learners, this is what we're going to put together. There's a really cool way of demonstrating a gear train. Okay, so you have a motor, you attach it to the one gear, and you see what the impact is over there. Or turn it around, make the big gear at the bottom and the little gear at the top, and then let's see whether that works.
Okay.
Okay, so it's about just exploring the world of gears. Okay, so this is the really cool one with gears. So here there is a series. This guy is Oshigawa. Oshigawa guy. These are just contraptions, much like my coffee machine. This is just contraptions. Contraptions to move, to make things, and to put things together. Some of them have got gears and some of them don't have gears. But again, it's all about building your frame of reference. Okay. Yeah. So there's clever contraptions and simple machines, and I really wish I had more time. I really do wish I had more time for this. So he's got like wheeled contraptions, and he's got simple machines, and then he's got fantastic contraptions. Okay. And I think about gear. That's the thing about gearing. You can all too easily just, we'll just put a little bit of gears on here and make it better. And then you skip a whole chunk of information. Because
okay, I've got one more question. Just on this unit 3, the challenge is to move 50 centimeters, pick up something and take it back to the start. Okay, but the instructions don't say to put it down, which kind of goes what you were saying earlier on. It's very important what you pick up and put down. So yes. Do we assume that?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry, yes. It's going forward, picking up something and bringing it back and then dropping it. Yeah.
Okay.
But no, yeah. Thank you for that.
I've got one or two more comments, but I'll leave it now and not hog the floor. I can chat later.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. Thank you so much. Thank you. Anybody got any other gearing comments to make?
Shannon Williams said, I've also used degrees, just reduced the speed percentage, but time makes sense for when the arm is stuck. Thanks, Doctor.
Thank you. I've seen too many robots get stuck.
So far, no any question. Gentlemen and ladies, if you have any questions, kindly please raise your hand or do it the way Chantal is doing it just now. She says, where can we get these books? I missed the name of the place.
Oh, okay, so I am, I actually need a library. I really enjoy reading books. So most of my books that I have purchased over the years comes from a place called No Starch Press. I think it's No Starch. Yeah, it's called No Starch Press. I'm just trying to see whether it's got a. So it's nostarch.com. Must I type it in here? So HTTP. I don't know. Is Casper typing it in? Nostarch.com. Must I type it in?
I see Anderson has already typed it. Thank you,
Thank you very much. Thank you. So No Starch. I have got a number of books from them. They also, once you start buying from them, they will prod you for specials, by the way, and they have really good deals, which is probably why I have so many books, because I can't resist a bargain. But I think it's also important that we have lots of activities for the learners to kind of build their frame of reference. All right, and you want to trigger ideas. There's some really cool attachments, even with elastic bands, where you have potential energy and kinetic energy, and so that's all that conversation. But really cool things just to build, just as contraptions. Using gearing mechanisms. I know at one stage there's actually, I'm just trying to think where it was. There was a really an arm that hit things this way, and then there was another arm that pushed things left and right. So you can have a whole lot of arms and motors going all over the direction, and you just hear and doing all weird things. And just with gearing, so you can make like a really cool thing to do, things that move. All right. Just as a last thing about powered attachments, if your learners create a really amazing powered attachment, it is very good that you then put that into, say, Lego Digital Designer or Studio, and then reverse engineer it so that you have the building instructions. Okay. I had a team that participated in a World WRO robotics competition, and they created, let's put it this way, they found an arm that kind of held something and put it up, but they needed something to put it up and let it go. Okay, so it had to come from out, together, up, and then release. And so that was the arm movement. And so we struggled a lot. And they built several prototypes until they got it right. And then by the time the competition came, they got it. And then we captured that on Lego Digital Designer. So that was their design, where they had something they built from it, and then decided how they needed to modify it, and then rebuilt it differently. And I think that's the important. So, and then they used it, I think 3 or 4 times after that in different other competitions. Similar structure, just modified each time for a specific purpose. Yeah, especially the arm gears going up and down like that. I like to say you must have drama. You must put drama into your robotics. The important thing is to ask the learners, what arm or thing are you creating? Do you want to grab something? Do you want to grab it tight? Okay. Do you want to hold on to it? Do you want to lift something, or do you want to drop something? Oh, that was the other thing. There is a link, and now I'm going to ask Casper. He must just go and have a look. There's a Dr. Hino video of using the Riley Rover for into orbit. It's like almost all the missions on the into orbit FLL challenge. So Dr. Hino just used the Riley Rover with the cargo loader, just that single attachment, and modified it. So he made it longer, he made it shorter, he turned it around, same gearing mechanism. And so from that single gearing mechanism with a single passive powered attachment, he was able to do most of the missions on the FLL challenge that year. I'm just not seeing it. Casper, are you finding it?
I just typed it. I'm just waiting for it to refresh.
Okay, thank you. All right, so again, a straightforward, simple Riley Rover with a straightforward arm mechanism, the cargo loader mechanism, modified, and you can do all the missions. And that is the importance also of design, of brainstorming, of strategy with your robotics team, is saying, what attachments do we need? Do we need it? Do we really need it to be powered? Remember, every time you have a powered attachment, you have to give up a motor, all right, because you're using the motor. Unless you then, like this Mario here, you've got your two motors connected to dog gears, which means you can put the attachments on and off. Your powered attachments, you can put them on and off. Yeah. All right. So if you've got nothing to do this afternoon, please go and look at the video and see straightforward, simple cargo loader attachment, simple meshing with knob gears, a very good example. But to get the learners to think, okay, if I can build the attachment to lift things up and I turn it around, then I can do it down and it can pull it. If I make it longer, it can fetch things. And so each modification is kind of getting the learners to start thinking about how we can do things differently. Okay. All right. There we go. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so there's your homework for this evening. Go and have a look at the video and see. It's just a straightforward Riley Rover, a straightforward arm, straightforward cargo connect. Enjoy. Okay, and let's talk about it further tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to do some applications, and I'm hopefully going to have my desk cleared by then, and we can do some playing around here. Okay. Any further questions? Any further comments? Or we all good? Nobody. Oh, Eric. Hi, Eric.
Yes.
Eric, you want to unmute?
Yeah. I know we're doing Unit 4 tomorrow, but for the challenge, you talk. We got to put things into a bucket. Okay, so I want to know how you define a bucket. Is it a big bucket, a small bucket, a beach bucket?
A little bucket, so you can robot and put things in. Yeah.
Okay.
Those little sweetie buckets. Yeah. Or a yogurt container, or a butter container, or margarine container. You put it into it. It's got to be put into it.
So it could be a container without a handle.
Yes, if you want to stick a piece of paper, it looks like a handle, that's also good. You can define it. You can get a container. You can put a label on my bucket. Okay. Because
in the part 2, you've got to go and then collect that somehow, or push it, or do something. That's what I was wondering.
Yes. So
okay.
Okay, it's cool. Thank you.
Just for anyone else using Spike Prime, I know a lot of the M2 challenges require sounds and beeps and things. The challenge with the Spike Prime is only beeps, basic beeps are exported or sounded by the hub. Spike Prime does a lot of sounds, but it'll play them on your computer, which doesn't help if your computer's sitting somewhere and you're running your robot on the floor.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, just something to keep in mind, because sometimes you're programming and you put in a sound and you don't hear it and you think you've done something wrong.
Oh, yes. So if your sound
Because
is
the
not...
sound, yeah, the sounds come through your computer and not the robot.
Okay, so you see, Eric, there is already, as a coach, you've kind of debugged the situation.
Yeah.
And really, and that is part of this competent and confident coaching. You kind of build a mental list of what could, what could go wrong, what could possibly go wrong. That is definitely, not having your sound on, but learners having the wrong wires and the wrong ports, learners having going forward for 0 rotations, bringing an arm down for 0 time. The list just gets on and on and on. And so what could go wrong? I want to add that to my list. Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Okay. The other thing that I've learned by myself, just I was reading a comment somewhere, because for this M2 it requires, I've built a lot of different robots.
Okay.
And
yes.
actually some of them, depending on how the motors are structured, in the coding you say you want to go forward, but actually the robot goes backwards.
Yes.
So now in the beginning, one of the first blocks you put in is to set which are the driving motors. So let's just say it's C and D. But if you're driving it backwards, then you just swap those 2 letters around to D and C, and it'll drive the other way. So that's just something I learned.
Okay,
we'll need to juggle with negative values to go forward or backwards. Always remember.
I think we need to start a what I've learned on this course list.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well done. Yeah. A link to this, and I don't want to generalize, but this is part of the 21st century skills with problem solving, and it really comes with perseverance. It's all too easy for the learners to say, can't do this, the robot's not, the stupid robot. But it's the perseverance to solve the problem. And figuring it out, like with your sound. When the sound is off, you're not going to hear the sound. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say that the sound, I've now got a mental note. Eric and the sound is already a mental note.
Yeah, that's just Spike Prime, because I know yesterday in your example, you were just playing sounds nicely, and this is what we're thinking about. But with Spike Prime, you can't do that. You want the sound of a cat or whatever, and it just doesn't, you don't hear it.
Yeah, the other thing with the sound, and it's so it's maybe not in when I start out with the learners, I encourage sounds so that you can debug, where your program is. But later on, you'll see that sound actually delays, especially when you're doing multitasking and you've got multiple threads coming down. It plays the whole sound, and so it delays the total execution. And I have had many students where I've just said, listen, take all the noises out so your program runs efficiently and effectively. Yeah.
Okay, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't like sound. I mean, for a while I was teaching Scratch, and once learners find the sound library, they spend half an hour playing all the sound.
No. And I can tell you another thing off the record. When I had an all-boys team, oh my word, did they love sounds. And they found the weirdest sounds, and you can actually record yourself as well and make your own sounds. Not a good idea. But you know what? We had fun and they learned, and yeah.
I've just got a quick comment just on the assessment.
Yes.
I know on the first page you want a signature.
Yes.
But then that means we've got to scan that document, and then you can't click on any links we include in it. So I wonder if that's critical, or if there's another way around it.
Yeah, just type your name.
Okay. And the quiz values, do we get those, or do those get filled in by you guys?
No, you should be able to get it. And in theory, maybe Eric, you can test it for me. I have asked them to set up that you can see the grade book, that you can see the results of your quizzes. Can you? I'm on the developing side, so I'm not in what you see. Can you just check that out for me?
Okay, I'll let you know.
Okay, if you can access the value of your quiz, you should be able to see what you got for each quiz. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. this has been really cool. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Yeah, there we go. Thank you for Casper going to find all my resources for me as usual. Thank you, Tumelo, for welcoming everybody. I don't know, is Cabello back again? Because Cabello is having a whole lot of chaos at his house.
Yes.
Is he back?
Not yet.
Not yet. All right. Anzani, do you want to thank everybody?
Yeah, sorry.
Is he?
Yes.
Yes, yes, Kabel is here, but I can thank everybody. Thank you so much for joining. It was a pleasure hosting you guys, and I was trying to show you my bucket, but nobody actually noticed me.
Where's your bucket? Show your bucket. Come, Anzani, show the bucket.
Okay, let me try again.
Show us the bucket.
There's the bucket.
Wait. I can't see.
Oh,
there
nice.
we go. Oh, that's a very good bucket.
But anyways, guys, thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow again for the same session, and then do invite people to join you guys. But otherwise, we are available on the ISED website. ISED emails. I was busy responding to the emails today. I think I responded to quite a lot. And yeah, and again, like Tumelo would say, we are available on Twitter, Facebook, and on YouTube. So yeah, from me and the team, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the great conversation. And we'll see you tomorrow. Okay.